Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is your brother Nafis Abu Zayd here with my co-host
Isa Abu Isa. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
and this is our 5-minute wake up inshallah ta'ala to the Muslimun. Alhamdulillah, we're continuing with the cult characteristics of a specific group that inform themselves as the pseudo Salafis here in the West. This is not applying to those who adhere to the true Dawah Salafiyya. But however, alhamdulillah, we want to continue. We reach up to chapter 3 with our beloved brother study and research that he put together, Abu Aaliyaah, Dewight Lamontte Battle. And alhamdulillah, the brother is going to begin to read the chapter heading of this particular chapter.
It says, chapter 3, the origin of partisanship and its social impact.
The origin of partisanship and its social impact. If y'all remember in chapter 2, we talked about the definition of Hizbiyyah, partisanship. We talked about the definition of Hizbiyyah. And there are certain terms and terminologies that we might not be familiar with, but however, as far as the behavioral pattern, we are familiar with. Many of us, if they're a little bit older, they came up through some form of, gang wars or, street mentality. Whereas we have a street gang, we have a clique, we have, things like that. And we were formed together, whether it be due to a certain locale, geographical location that we are from, whether it be from the fact that we consider ourselves to be this elite group. We are formed together, and make a party. So he's going to talk about the origin of this partnership. Where did it trace back to? Who was one of its founders or originator? Also, in its social impact. How does it impact society? How does it affect society? Inshallah ta'ala, alhamdulillah, the brother did a good job, inshallah.
Says the existence of partisanship, Hizbiyyah, dates back to early as Fir'aun. As Allah says, Pharaoh said, "You have believed in him before I give you leave. Surely, he indeed is your chief who has taught you magic. So verily, you shall come to know. Verily, I will cut off your hands and your feet on opposite sides, and I will crucify you all." Surah Ash-Shura, verse 49.
So Fir'aun, so that you know there were many pharaohs, but the Fir'aun here that Allah Jalla wa Ala is referring to is the one during Musa time. The one during Musa time. Here he is addressing his magicians in terms of their following behind Musa and his brother Harun. So Fir'aun, the brother is saying that we see that Fir'aun had this complex where, the origin of partnership was though he felt that no one can believe in other than anything without him granting that person a particular, a permission to do so. And this is why the ulama, they mentioned that, and Allah Azza wa Jal say countless times in the Quran, La'nahullah, may the curse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be upon Fir'aun, that rarely Fir'aun has subjected himself and his people to punishment in the evening and at night, before the day of judgment, due to this arrogance that he had. So Fir'aun was saying to these particular magicians, "You have believed in him," meaning into Musa. "You believed in Musa before I give you leave. Surely he indeed is your chief." So he's saying that Musa is the one all along. Here he's accusing, making an accusation that Musa alayhi salam all along is the one who have taught you this particular magic, right? So rather you should come to know, meaning now that I'm going to bring my punishment upon you. So here is he using threat tactics. So we see that the origin of partnership, according to the author here, is saying that Fir'aun, La'nahullah, may Allah curse him, is the one who, was, prone to bring about a lot of.
Yeah, he was. I mean, so this sounds like let's try to bring it home. Let's bring it home. So you're saying that you're not allowed to say someone's Salafi unless I give you permission. You're not allowed to take from someone unless I give you permission. You're not allowed to, and if you do, we'll threaten you. We'll say we're going to hunt you down. We're going to say you this and that. So you can trace these behavior back to Fir'aun. That's basically what the brother is saying. This type of behavior, you can trace it back to Fir'aun. This is what I'm getting from it.
Or feel as though that you need some type of permission, not to be Salafi, but you need some type of permission to, to act on behalf of, of the Dawah. in order to call others to the dawah, in order to interact with others with the dawah, you need some type of permission or some type of sanction from a hierarchy that's above in order to be able to teach.
Exactly.
And these type of concepts really, we are, alhamdulillah, is very foreign to Islam, because actually the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, which is authentic and it comes in Bukhari in the Book of Knowledge, the Prophet ﷺ said, "Ballighu anni wala ay," convey from me even if it's one eye. And there are many countless other narrations. So generally, all of us are commanded to some form of a level based upon our istita'ah to convey that which the Messenger of Allah ﷺ came with. So for someone to self-appoint themselves and place themselves above that and say, okay, no, you can only orchestrate it as long as you get our sanction for that. And to use tactics such as, well, you don't have a teacher, you don't have a scholar, you don't have so forth. All of these things and these type of tactics is incorrect. And they're just used as scare tactics for real, because the ulama themselves have not placed it upon themselves, because Allah Jalla wa Ala know that His Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam sanctioned them to do so, for anyone not to give da'wah.
Exactly.
You know, that's not something they do.
Well, that hadith is the Prophet didn't make it conditional. If you had a teacher or not, to say ayah or to give somebody da'wah on your ability, the hadith doesn't give those conditions that these brothers are giving, or these people are giving.
And none of the ulama of the past, and we have a separate talk where we dealt with that, none of the ulama of the past understood it to be so. That way. They understood that basically the only condition in terms of giving da'wah is based off another verse that comes in Surah Yusuf, where Allah Jalla wa Ala mentioned that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Kul hadihi sabili," say this is my way, and ana wa rali, I call, and wa man ittaba'ani, I call to my Lord, right? Ala basira, upon basira, insight. So the ulama said that the restriction here is basira, insight. A person should have understanding of that particular thing that he or she is calling to.
SubhanAllah. A cult leader is considered the supreme authority of the group. This figurehead commands the utmost respect and compliance from its members, and he has the only final ruling on matters. Pharaoh said, "You have believed in him before I give you leave." He was amazed that the people believed in Allah before he allowed them or commanded them
to do so. And that might be a little bit extreme. We're not saying that amongst us there are those who actually really is the figurehead, where they taking that. But there is a group that have placed themselves to share responsibility as the figurehead.
Yeah, and, exactly.
You know what I mean? It's the way that it have been employed dealing with the dawah up to now is just like, you know, well, they hear of certain individuals, and you know, you might say, well, what's up with such and such? You know, he just came back from studying. He's teaching down such and such. Hold on, let me check. Who said that he can do it? I'll advise you to stay away from them, because you know, who told him he can do this without checking us? And there have been incidents where individuals come to certain towns, and the figurehead here is the group, the main body. This particular group will go to these people and say, well, why would you come to this particular city without contacting and consulting with us? Because we know the people.
So they want respect and compliance.
Yeah, they want respect and compliance. They definitely want respect and compliance. Conformity all the way.
Yeah, all the way. And if you don't conform 100%, then you're outside of this particular group.
And it's important for us to understand that a cult is a cult. And the author already gave us the definition of a cult. So we have to stop being leery and stop being spooky, saying that, you know, we don't put ourselves before the ulama. The ulama didn't say that this is a cult. The ulama didn't say that this was this type of characteristics. No, but we know things by their characteristics. Sheikh Salih Fawzan Hafidhullah mentioned we know people by their characteristics. We know things by their traits. Right? No matter what name you call it. We still know it by its traits and its characteristics. For example, if it's Qamar, and they call it Qamar, you know, good spirits, we still know that it's Qamar and it's alcohol, whether they call it good spirits or not.
When they call shirk tawassul.
Exactly. They call shirk, you know, tawassul. We know things by its traits and its characteristics, so, you know, we're not fooled by the name.
Exactly, we're not fooled by the name. Because cult just hears me Hizbiyah.
Exactly.
Cults, Hizbi organizations look superb on the exterior, but internally, they are very scheming and controlling.
They have agendas.
Yes,
they have agendas. Each cult member, especially a cult leader, his agenda is obviously clear. He want to keep his followers duped and they want to keep bringing them in. But the Hizbi organizations, which similar to some of the cult characteristics, because they're not actually the same thing, but they share similarities, is showing you that the Hizbi organizations they have an agenda, and the author is going to mention that agenda.
And you say scheming and controlling. Usually, you'll find that scheming and controlling because they need this base to keep on getting money for the for the cult, and also to keep it relevant. You can't be relevant if you don't. You need scare tactics. You need to always have an agenda. You need to always keep to praise numbers and to do this, to keep this group relevant and to keep it as in front of people as this powerful mechanism. It's one of the ways they scheme.
I'm gonna bring it even more home, and it might seem scary, but it's real. What they do is they prey on the younger youth who went overseas and studied and then graduated, and then they come back, and what they do is they sick these because of who they are and their esteemed respect that the youth might have for them, they use ploys and controlling tactics to pit them against one another. So they have one particular individual, another particular individual write out refutations of other students, whom they themselves don't begin to write out the refutation themselves. So when you confront them, they say, well, I never wrote down one thing or said any one thing. So when the smoke is clear, they're not there, but they're pending the smaller youth, the smaller ones that's coming back and eager, and they're pending them against one another.
But
this is a controlling tactic. Something that you see that happens very frantically, where people who are friends, I'm talking about close friends overseas, they was colleagues, they studied together, they ate together, they family knew each other, they helped each other with grades, these things, etc. And then they get back here, and then it's just like it's just one big, poor. One group is poor.
But didn't Pharaoh do that? Didn't he Shi'an, make the people Shi'an?
Yeah, Allah Jalla wa'ala talks about how they made him up into schism.
Didn't he do that? Didn't Pharaoh? And also, when he was with the brother mentioned, and he said, you get a young person, they come over and you sick them on somebody. Pharaoh did the same thing. He called them. He called it the sahir. He called it the magicians from the different cities. To sick them on who? Musa and Harun. It's a Pharaoh manhaj. This is a pharaonic manhaj.
SubhanAllah. Manhaj al-Fir'aun.
It's a manhaj al-Fir'aun. This is what he did. He called people in, and what was the reward? To be down, to get close to him, to be down with his clique. This is what they do. You do stuff. You got people now that are refute this masjid or don't go to this masjid because they want to get in with a certain group of people. They want to get down with them. It's the same thing the magicians did. They said, "Oh, well, what's our reward?" He said, Pharaoh said, "Naam."
They said if we do this, and
you'll get close to me.
Will we get a reward? He said, yes, you will be close to me. I will bring you up closer, meaning you will have a higher seat closer next to me.
Exactly.
And sometimes people like that can be easily manipulated when they are seeking out frantically some type of benefit, thinking that they're going to get closer to the actual leader.
SubhanAllah. Their leaders plot frantically to deceive you and implore you into becoming an affiliate by preying on your sincere quest for a religious connection. Once you've joined, they exploit you until you are no longer of any use. Their two main concerns are your wealth and time. They employ the most sophisticated psychological manipulations techniques to keep its members loyal.
Stop there real quick. Their wealth and time is what the brother said the main two concerns or the main drivers. What is their agenda? Wealth and time. I'll give you an example of that is you will see another school. Like there was a school that was opening that have opened and it's still open now, and it was gearing towards teaching the children that which was correct. It has some particular brothers that we know and is well known and we respect that was teaching there. Our brother Isa himself was teaching at this particular school. But however, you will see tactics such as they don't promote that particular school as a school that where you can get education from. Well, it's not a Salafi school. The only Salafi school is this school right here. Or they use tactics where as though, we don't know nothing about them, or we don't mention them at all. And then people are going back and asking questions like, okay, well, my family live in that vicinity. I see that they go up to the 12th grade, or they go up to such and such. What do you say about it? Well, we don't know nothing about them. You want to be clear, people. You want to stick with this, which is straight. And these are some of the tactics that, keep the people, okay, for example, with the wealth and the time thing. They keep the people wealth circulating right back into the community where they're at because they don't want the resources to extend outside of that.
SubhanAllah.
They don't want the resources to extend outside.
And they're willing to lie. They're willing to lie to keep these resources in their coat.
And in regard, regardless whether or not it's personal in terms of that, and I know what the brother is alluding to, but I just want to keep it real general as opposed to we know some of the downright downtrodden tactics that are used to try to what they call it, character assassination.
No.
But that's not what we're saying. We're saying overall with wealth, to control the flow of people wealth is we have to make it seem like we are the only Salafis. We are the only source of knowledge. We are the only place where you can come to. We are the only a source of authority. Because now that flows and that keeps the people stuck right where they're at. So any projects that they're embarked upon, the people are given to their particular projects.
And nobody else's.
He's going to talk about this in the article.
They employ the most sophisticated psychological manipulation techniques. For example, to keep his members loyal. You talk to most people today, they believe that somebody can take their salafiyah from them. That's a psychological problem. That's a manipulation technique. That you believe that somebody can give and take your salafiyah, other than Allah.
That's a dangerous understanding because, in actuality, someone can take your salafiyah. And what I mean by that is, if you are part of the Salafi cult movement, then that particular person can take it. That's the only place where they can take your salafiyah. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, the same thing that will take your salafiyah will take your Islam. You know what I mean? That's the same thing that will take your Islam. That's the same thing that will take you out of the fold of Islam and take your salafiyah away from you. So we want to be a little bit careful and extremely careful when we say someone has the power and vessel to take away your salafiyah. Yes, a cult, a Hizbi organization that are pros in that Salafis can revoke your membership card. Yeah, if you want to believe that, because that's who you feel as though you can check in with. Not with Allah and His Messenger.
Because only Allah can remove Iman from a person's heart.
Exactly. Or move Salafiyah from. Then there are clear-cut principles that are both old that the ulama have laid down. Principles that if you go against the grain, principles that if you have knowledge about these things and you have been warned and you have been advised and you keep going against these particular principles, then it will lead to something else. No. That's not the principles that the pseudo-Salafis have embarked upon. No. They have certain principles such as you're guilty by association. They might see you sitting with someone that, you know, might be well known to know to be author or something like that, and they deem you to be author because you were sitting next to it. And these are tactics that they use even with the laymen. The laymen sometimes will find themselves hesitant. Well, you live right next to a masjid.
But you won't go pray there.
You won't pray inside the masjid because you believe that, you know, if I get court seen in this particular masjid or saw at this particular masjid, then this, you know.
Or maybe bid'ah is airborne.
No, actually that's incorrect. Because the masjid that's in your locale has more haqq on you.
Exactly.
Has more haqq on you. You can ask any scholar you want. But I challenge you. I challenge the laymen to start particularly telling these individuals who they take their knowledge from to go back to the ulama and ask the questions. Because it's been asked. You want to ask Sheikh Rabi'a. You want to ask Sheikh Ubaid. You want to ask these names that you're familiar with. Or you want to get to ask Sheikh Salih Fuzan, Sheikh Luhidan, from the major scholars. You can ask them particularly, what does your local masjid have a right on? And you can look into that. Your local masjid has a right on you. You pray there. There's no graves there. There's nothing preventing from you. Even if it was an innovator there, you still should pray at your local masjid because it's permissible to pray behind an innovator.
And it's the bid'ah is the prayer back over, to do the prayer over.
Exactly. But now, if you have the opportunity, as the ulama explained, to go to a masjid that propagate the dawah and that calls to that which is correct, then if you have a chance to get there, then it's preferable that you get there. But if the salat is in, don't go to two extremes. Don't go to the extreme now to say, I'm not going to pray at all. No, offer the salat.
Or pray in your house.
Yeah, for the men, it's wajib in the congregation. So,
pray in the masjid.
Pray in the masjid.
It's not a grave there.
You don't gotta stay for the dars. You don't gotta stay for the lesson.
Just pray and go, man.
Bid'ah, like my brother said, bid'ah is not airborne.
Yeah, it's not airborne. You're not going in and get a bid'ah disease because you walked inside of a masjid that's quote unquote a deviant masjid. I don't know when we come with those conditions that what makes a deviant masjid, but subhanallah.
Actually, it's the knowledge that's been disseminated, and we want to be careful when we start saying deviant particularly.
Exactly.
There are certain massages that the ulama have spoken and gave hukms on here in Philadelphia, and we all know what these certain masjids are. We know like 45th Street.
No,
we don't even go in there. We don't go in there. And Broad and Glenwood, we know these type of things that are clear. Habashi and all that type of stuff, where they, believe that Allah doesn't rise above His throne and all this extra stuff. We know these are clear.
Exactly.
But outside of them,
the general masajid that's around, you go pray in them and then you go.
No one saying they want to sit down in the park and do a dars.
No, we're not saying that. We're not saying that.
But you can offer salat there.
Yeah, exactly.
But these are tactics that they use, as the brother is saying here, these are tactics that they use, psychological tactics that make you believe that your Salafiyya is in question. Your Islam is in question. Your minhaj is in question. And then they get on the big, the big terrain that, what is your minhaj?
Subhanallah. Even the layman doesn't even know what the word minhaj means linguistically or shar'an.
Sheikh Raslan, Hafidhullah, he said that if a person wants to know minhaj, then let him study the seerah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Let him study the autobiography of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam if you want to know minhaj. If a person asks you what's your minhaj, you tell him your minhaj is that of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Just as Ibn Taymiyyah said in a famous poem that is attributed to him, which is called Lamiyah. He mentioned that my minhaj and my madhab and my aqidah is the madhab what? What is the minhaj?
Of the Prophet.
Of the Prophet sallallahu of his companions with one Allah ta'ala alayhim. So don't be scared by tactics. Yeah, the individual, you can tell that his minhaj, his minhaj is off. His aqidah is correct, but his minhaj is off.
What's the criteria that you have to say that his minhaj is off? Because you can't go, because most of us, if you ask them, okay, what's the bid'ah of Falan, or what's the innovation of this particular masjid, you're saying it's an innovative masjid. You're saying it's a masjid that's not Salaf, is not on it. What's the innovation that's in that masjid that you're particularly talking about? And I'm talking about the ones that we can go pray in, like Jamia or any of them, Mujahideen, any of these masajid that's around the city that we actually permissible to pray in. What's the innovation of these particular people, and what's the innovation that's going on in that masjid?
That you cannot go in there and pray.
What is it?
Muhammad.
He said, so they employ the most sophisticated psychological manipulation techniques to keep his members loyal. Don't think that you are immune from the cancer disease of partisanship.
No one. Even Ibrahim alayhi salam, he made dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect him and his progeny from shirk. So if here is the who was our father of the deen, who the one Allah Jalla wa ala said he is the one who named us Muslims. If this is Ibrahim alayhi salam, who was the muwahid, the one who practiced tawheed when he was a little child, who fathered carved idols, if he was making dua for protection of shirk, then how much more so making dua from protection of his biyah, from cult characteristics, from falling to this. Don't think that you cannot fall or that you're immune from falling this just because you shout out a certain name or a certain masjid or follow a certain group or a certain belief or certain qawaid or certain principles. That's because you do these things don't mean that you are 100% protected. The only thing that will protect you is Allah Azza wa Jal, and following the Sunnah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the way that he intended. And the way that he intended, as Imam Shafi'i said that we follow the law Jalla wa ala according to the way that he intended. We follow the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam according to the way he intended, not the way that we understand or someone else.
Exactly.
Alhamdulillah, the brother continues.
Identifying with a group is the process of adopting its beliefs, attitudes, and standards, as well as complying with its rules and regulations in effort to gain closeness to other human beings and feel part of something larger than the individual's personal life. In other words, it makes us feel like we belong.
And this is here coming from a psychological point of view, also a social understanding. The brother, alhamdulillah, have consult with the experts, and you can see that sometimes this is why a lot of gangs are formed. These things here that he mentioned is what makes people feel a part of something larger than themselves. So everybody wants to feel like they are part of something, that they contribute to something else validate them.
It's natural.
However, it's very important that what you in Islam, the thing that you should be trying to get close to is Allah and His Messenger. That's what you should try to get close to. It's very, very important that you keep that as the focal goal. If I do this action, will Allah Jalla wa ala be pleased?
Exactly.
If I do this action, am I following the Prophet? That should be the two things that go across your mind.
Not your group.
Not your group. Not your imam. Not your your student of knowledge. Not your scholar. Not anyone you should be looking for a form of praise, other than the fact that when you do an action, you should be thinking, if Allah Jalla wa ala pleased with me with this action, did He sanction this action?
No.
Am I doing this action for other than Him? Or or also what? Or is the Prophet ﷺ done this action like this? Or did he forbid this action? This should be the two criteria.
But that's not the criteria. The criterion is what the principles laid down by the code. These are the principles that's being followed, not the principles that Allah and His Messenger laid down.
But if you're not asking yourself these questions when you do your action, because the only one who can accept your actions is Allah Jalla wa ala, right? And if you're not asking yourself these questions, then something else is going in your mind. I wonder if I do this, will they accept me more?
Oh.
I didn't go even if they didn't know, and sometimes we got to be careful, even if the elite group don't even know of you, Sometimes you find yourself doing stuff like, yeah, well, I didn't go on this masjid today because, you know what I mean, I'm staying on these standards. Yeah, I ain't rock out with those particular people because I'm on these standards. If they only knew, I'm not with that.
They be scared.
All because of what you heard.
Yeah, they be scared to get seen in places. It's real deep.
Not only seen in places, they feel as though they're gaining nearness to these people if it gets back to them that they didn't take that stance or that standard. Like, you have to think.
You gotta be careful.
Islam calls you to think for yourself. Allah Jalla wa Ala says in the Quran, قَدْ خَلَتْ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ سُنَنٌ فَسِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ. Allah said, indeed, the people before you, there was a sunnah that Allah Jalla wa Ala dealt with them. They have been destroyed. So travel through the earth. فَانْظُرُوا. Look and see what's the outcome, the result of these people who are deniers of Allah's ayat. So here, Sheikh Uthaymeen mentioned that this is an evidence that the Quran appeals to one aql, intellect. The Quran appeals to one intellect. Use your mind. Allah gave it to you. Use your faculty.
No. And a cult only try to deal with your emotions and your psychological problems. That's what it deals with. It doesn't even deal with the intellect because it's not intellectual at all. Each of us wants to feel like we belong somewhere. That is why groups are so important to our social lives. Meaning, it's a natural thing to want to be in a group. You just want to make yourself into the Hizb of Allah. You know what I'm saying? You want to be in the party of Allah, the group of Allah, and following the Messenger. Alayhi salatu wasalam. When we can relate to others, we are able to justify our beliefs and actions, even though that justification isn't necessarily needed. So, I don't need justification to be Muslim or Salafi from a particular group to tell me when I'm Salafi or how to be Salafi, even though we have the Quran and the Sunnah, we have the Sahaba, we have the scholars explaining these issues. But people actually believe that they need that to feel justified and to feel as though they've made it, they need this particular special group to tell them that. And it's unfortunate. Shaykh Rabi' ibn Hadi al-Madkhali Hafizahullah said, if this grouping is built on falsehood and invites to falsehood and innovation, that it is a duty for every Muslim to say that this is from a form of grouping isn't from Islam. Grouping for the Quran and Sunnah, making unity and separation due to Quran and Sunnah, then this is from Islam.
This is very important, right? You say, okay, how do we deal with this pseudo-Salafis? Because mostly they wear the cloak of Salafiyah. They quote from the books of the Aqa'id, from the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. They read, they go over these, the creed. They also go hard on, warning against innovation. How do we look at this particular thing? They have contacts with scholars that are well known and respected. How do we go through that and cipher through that to see if this is really forming a group? Then again, you have to go back to the two main things. What is that group based upon? What is it based upon? Because people have agendas. Is it truly based upon the claim of following that which is the Quran and the Sunnah? Is it truly based upon that? How do you know it's really based upon following the Quran and the Sunnah? If it's really based upon following the Quran and the Sunnah you can tell, number one, if there is a position or there is a choice that has to be placed, then you're going to choose that of the Quran and the Sunnah over that. Not yourself. You're going to go back, you're going to go look, you're going to investigate, and you're going to see what the ulama is saying about that particular thing. The scholars who are learned, who understand and can explain the verses or the ahadiths to us. And then you're going to make your basis on that. Not on the fact that so-and-so agreed to this position, so because he agreed to this position, even though I don't know what the position is or the evidence, I'm going to agree based off of that. Scary.
SubhanAllah.
Very scary. I mean, to the layman, to a certain degree, we have to believe in the experts and we have to follow them. This is why some of the scholars, they say the taqleed is permissible in this case, whereas though you don't have the necessary tools to go and look into the evidence yourself, so you have to follow someone who is trustworthy and will have those particular skills. However, what about the case when you're not following a person who isn't a scholar aslan, but you're just following because these particular people from this place? People do it all the time. What do people say? Well, Saudi does it this way.
Yep. What does that mean?
Not Allah and His Messenger, but Saudi does it this way.
Yeah.
How many people do this? Well, that's how they do it up the way.
Or the brothers said.
Or the brothers said. Or the brothers did this. Okay, where is the evidence? Because the brothers, Saudi and all that isn't the evidence.
Not a hujjah.
It's not a hujjah.
It's not a hujjah.
And we're not speaking ill of Saudi Arabia. We're saying that there isn't the hujjah, though. They're not the hujjah. So at the end of the day, you can't say, okay, well, Saudi does it this way, so we does it this way.
You can't say it like that.
You can't say it like that. Now, we're not talking about Ramadan and following the sighting of the moon and things like that. That have specific rulings and certain truths. We're not saying that. We're just saying you have to be extremely careful, just like Abdullah ibn Umar, he told his son about, the Prophet ﷺ had prohibited the woman going to the masjid. And his son said to him, the Prophet ﷺ, he told his son that the Prophet ﷺ had allowed the woman to come to the masjid, right? And he said, do not prohibit them from going if they choose to do so. So his son said, as for us, we're going to prohibit them from coming to lead the what's name. And what did he do? He strike the son because his son was going against that of the Prophet ﷺ. He strike them. Another time he mentioned that an incident took place, and they said that Umar said and Abu Bakr said. He said, I mentioned to you a hadith that the Prophet ﷺ said this, and you said Umar and Abu Bakr said.
And my father and Abu Bakr said. SubhanAllah. He said the rocks have rained out of the sky.
I'm telling you the Prophet said. You're telling me Abu Bakr.
I've heard it before. But the hadith says this. They be like, well, Sheikh Falan said this, or this student said that. I mean, you see here. I mean, I've heard without any proof. Somebody will say, oh man, he tripping. That brother out of it. That brother shout out. These type of words, shout out, off it, not clear. Okay, what did he do? You got to ask the brothers. I'm asking you because you the one that brought me the information.
Important. Extremely important.
Yeah, I'm asking you, but you don't even know what's wrong with the brother, or if it is anything wrong with him. Somebody just told you don't take from him. He's off it. He shout out. Don't listen to him. And you never ask the beg and say, oh, what is it?
And Islam is so just. Islam is so just that everybody's sharing that sin. The fame in a person's character, everyone that's a part of it, the one who initiated, they all sharing it. Just like the Prophet ﷺ mentioned about Khamr, the one who prepares for it, the ones who carry it, the ones who sell it, all of these type of things, they're cursed, they fall under that la'na of those dealing that thing. Islam is just. You have to be careful. Don't take something against another person just because someone say it. Verify that particular information. Make sure it's true and it's applicable to that particular person.
No.
This way you are thinking with the faculties Allah giving you, and you're not following a cult or a Hizbi organization by the permission of Allah Jalla wa Ala. Did he finish?
Yeah.
No. So at the end of this chapter, alhamdulillah, we conclude that the origin, number one, goes back to Fir'aun, and no one want to be associated with Fir'aun. May Allah protect us for that.
Ameen.
Also, the fact that the social impact, and a lot of us can attest to the fact that there's a lot of social disorientation amongst all of us now.
Yeah.
It's so political. The climate is so political and very tensions that a lot of people just want to learn their religion, but they can't learn their religion because they got to worry about who's going to look at them and where did you get that from.
Yeah.
And they might like a certain people, a certain brother delivery. They might like the way that the person disseminate knowledge and they get it better and they grasp it better from this particular person.
No.
But they can't listen to that particular person because that socially that person isn't.
You'll be outcast.
Yeah, exactly. That person isn't someone that we take from. And that person is someone we can't. This is very scary. And we have to stop doing this because we're doing it in some way or form of another by following. We're not doing this by thinking. We haven't thought. Because if we truly gave it some thought, we would have actually understood that the issue is not how people profess it to be.
I mean, he had a brother who wanted to learn Arabic. And he was like, he liked the Arabic class. He wanted to benefit from these particular brothers. But he was just like, I can't come down there. He can't come around us because he lives in a certain particular part of the city, or he lives somewhere with a particular place. And if he does that, he's outcast. If he does that, he loses this. If he does that, this is the problem. These kids face this problem. I mean, this is real life scenarios that's happening right here in Philadelphia. People are separated and divided, and they may have respect for a particular group of people, or they may like a person or a brother, but they can't even show the love to him. Because if they show any love to this brother, they're outcast.
And they don't want to go through that socially being outcast.
No, they don't.
No one want to feel like that or feel bombarded. Like a certain particular person, a Muslima, she said, I follow the classes online, I listen, but I just don't repost them, I don't put them up because I don't want to be bombarded with that. Well, you can't take from so and so, and we all do it. We're guilty in certain ways where we just defame people all day. You see people coming up just putting up refutations after refutations, and you're just layman's. You don't even know Aleph, Ba, Ta. You can't even recite the Quran properly, and you're worrying about a man who might be thousands of miles away from you, and you know nothing about him. You don't understand him, period. You haven't heard him talk or anything. But a group of people tell you that this particular person has rabies. You haven't checked the information, but you say that this person has rabies. I don't understand that. Like, it just seems like we want to witch hunt.
We don't know what rabies look like either.
Yeah, we want to witch hunt. Like, we just look out just to attack people. We have to stop that.
You got to stop this
Allah
stuff.
Jalla wa Ala did not place. He told Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam constantly, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ عَلَيْهِمْ حَفِيظًا وَلَسْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ بِمُسَيْطِرٍ. Allah tells Quran, tell Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam over in the Quran, you are not a person who is a wakil. You're not the one who watch, a guardian over their affairs. You can't make them do anything. If a person is going off the wrong course, let the experts deal with it. Not a few beginning students of knowledge. No, we're not saying that. Not a few group of brothers who we respect because they gave good khutbahs or their delivery is nice. No, we're talking about the ulama, the major scholars dealt with the issue. They looked at it. If you want to keep talking and quoting Sheikh Rabi', how long did he dealt with certain individuals before he came out?
A long time.
Not 1 month, not 2 months. Oh, I was telling the brother, and the brother, he seemed like he didn't get it.
We had to tell a brother not to even to bring it reality. We had to tell our brother not to say that he's even comes down here if he wants to get married, because he's going to stop. He's not going to be able to get married.
Social impact.
We had to tell the brother it's okay, Aki. He didn't really want to do it. He was saddened that he had to do it. I told him, Aki, don't even tell the people that you even affiliate with us if you want to get married.
Because they started using slogans like this. You want to check a person minhaj first before you marry them off. You want to make sure their aqidah and all that is sound before you marry them off. If you really want to know the truth. If you really want to go back in the books, you know what I'm saying? Did the ulama allow individuals to marry people that wasn't upon that which is correct? I challenge you to go back and look. I challenge you to go back and look in the books and see did anyone get married that wasn't upon the correct aqidah. I challenge you. This I know for sure. But I challenge you to go back and look. Stop listening to what everyone tell you. No, we don't necessarily go out and marry people upon innovation. That's not our creed. That's not our way. But have it happen? And why did it happen? This is stuff that you have to be clear. It's not absolute, as everybody wants you to think it's just black and white. It's not. Everything is not black and white. Some things you have to understand that there are gray areas. There are different things. There are reasons why this happened and that happened.
Exactly.
And inshallah ta'ala, hopefully we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to wake up and really start using our minds and thinking for ourselves and, referring back to Allah and His Messenger, truly referring back to Allah and His Messenger, and using the help of the ulama and not following any particular people or group or society or association just to feel a part of or feel accepted, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Stay tuned for the next 5-minute wake up. That will be next week, inshallah, with chapter 4.